and welcome one and all on our vast global audience of Aztec Nation followers on the interwebs. This is Aztecs All In, Steve Perez with Louis Weiner. We are all in on San Diego State University Aztec athletics. At this point, the Aztecs, one hopes, are all out of Oregon after a defeat at the hands of the bucky-teeth, four-legged animals, the Oregon State Beavers. Funky 26-9 score. Louis, say hello to the vast global audience of Aztec Nation followers on the interwebs.
Welcome, Aztecs All-In listeners following the Aztecs' 26-9 loss. At least they weren't blown out, Steve.
Correct. In this episode, we will look back as the Aztecs do suffer their second straight loss to what's left of the Pac-12. They are now 2-2 on the year. With their Mountain West Conference opener coming up against Boise State, we will have a brief post-game take from Brady Hoke, courtesy of San Diego Sports 760, on the numerous sacks that QB Jalen Mayden took. We will both talk about our individual keys to this game, and then we will briefly advance the upcoming Boise State game. In the end, also, a word or two about a men's sport in which the Aztecs are actually nationally ranked. Is that enough for the opening heads, Louis?
I believe so. Let's get right to it.
Okay, so everyone watched the same game, and everyone saw that stat. Jalen Mayden sacked 6 times, a majority of those on third down, when obviously they needed to make a first down to keep drives going, and were unable to do that. And the question came up in the post game from San Diego Sports 760 that was posed to Brady Hoke before he beat feet out of town. Was it a matter of Jalen Mayden needing a quicker release, or does the offensive line need to give him more time to throw the football? And Brady Hoke responded, you can't just put that on the offensive line. There are 11 guys out there on the field. They all have to do the right things.
You got to run the right routes. You got to have the right breaks. You have to obviously get rid of the ball. And so I think the offensive line will be fine. I'm not overly concerned about that. Do we need to play better? Yes. Do we need to make sure we're all on the same page when you look at different protection schemes? But overall, we got to keep working. Moose is getting better weekly, and I think Ryan's done a great job with him. And we just got to keep growing as a football team.
And once again, we thank San Diego Sports 760 for giving us that sound from Coach Brady Hoke in the aftermath of the Aztecs loss. And he is correct about the fact that there are other guys on the football field. The viewer's attention is, of course, riveted on the quarterback who has the ball and the pocket collapsing around him. I also think it was a function of how well Oregon State's defensive line did, and also there are folks in the middle backers putting a lot of pressure on him directly. The pocket many times just collapsed, and he had nowhere to go. We also don't know what type of routes. I had a question about the play calling, because there were times when everybody in the stadium knew what the play was going to be, and perhaps a different approach at that point might have produced a different result. But I like the way Hoke talks afterwards. We all have to do our job and keep growing as a football team. So did you see some progress in all of that on the offensive side, Louis?
I did see some progress. During the game, you're my reality check because we texted during the game. Yeah. And at one point, I think I texted you, Jalen Mayden is a statue back there. Because, he just, look, when you have 5 big guys rushing towards you, it's hard to move. But my thought as a fan is, well, just throw the ball away, or can he just, and obviously that's not realistic. The realistic thing is they have to play better. And it made it difficult to watch as a fan because they would move the ball, get to third down, and get sacked. So it was frustrating for fans to watch. But Mayden did make some progress today. I thought for the most part, he played pretty well, 20 of 32 for 256 yards. And as we've seen over the past few weeks, on drives where he's hot, they can get down the field pretty quick. A couple of weeks ago, he was 7 of 7 on a drive, and they scored a touchdown. He did this today as well late in the game. He was 5 for 5, and they were moving down toward a touchdown, but then he threw a pick in the end zone. So when he gets hot, the Aztecs move the ball pretty well, passing. Now, running game, that's a whole different story.
The Aztecs honestly did not get the job done on the ground, and against a high-scoring offense like Oregon State, it's something that they absolutely have to do, and that basically is the basis of a Hoke-managed football team, is get on the ground, hold on to the football, move the chains. The Aztecs gained, 79 or 78 yards rushing on 34 attempts, and they averaged 2.1. They got one rushing touchdown late, gained a total of 127 yards, and then lost 57, a lot of those on the sacks. So trying to pound that football in on a Pac-12 team is a tall order. Everybody needed to be on the same page and executing to perfection. And because there's another team on the other side of the football trying very hard to stop you, not always successful.
No, and were it not for the sacks, Maiden would have led the Aztecs in rushing again. First series of the game, he had a nice 25-yard rush that got the Aztecs into Oregon State territory. But unfortunately, they just couldn't get it done. He threw a couple of high passes on that drive that they just, couldn't get any points out of it.
How about we discuss, going into this game, our own personal keys? What was yours?
Keys to the game for me was the Aztecs had to rush for at least 100 yards. That was one key. Maiden had to throw a couple of touchdown passes, and at the same time, no penalties or very few. And the Aztecs, if you look at it, they only had one penalty the entire game. You remember a couple of weeks ago, the first game of the year, there were penalties galore at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And today, they really eliminated those. So I think the team really, the coaches got to them with the penalties. But the running backs have to be able to move down the field. Jalen Armstead had a drive late where he scored the touchdown. He touched the ball 5 times, 4 runs, 1 pass, and he was very good. Keenan Christon, to me, is fast, but he wasn't fast enough to get around the corner. The Oregon State defenders kept bottling him up.
It's something that I saw in common with the Bruins during last week's game. Once the Aztecs were fortunate enough to get through the first level of defense, which happened not often enough for them to make an impact, they had a very fast and athletic group in the secondary, safeties, cornerbacks, who came in and could wrap you up and make tackles, and Oregon State had the same. So that was what they wrote on that score. And Hoke, in the brief interview he did with 760, said they needed a better running game at the point of attack. He said there were some nice things going, the passing game improved, but the receivers have to catch better. They had some drops. Can't do that. So my keys to this game, if the Aztecs were to win, number 1, they would have to hold the opposing team scoreless until the Aztecs could manage to get a score. And that did not happen. The Aztecs did not score at all in the first quarter. They did hold OSU to a single field goal in the first quarter. So then they got outscored 9-3 in the second. So they were unable to win on that count. And we had pretty much the same goals in our second note about the Aztecs needing to score in the running game and gain the running game. And they needed to score a lot more, of course, than they did. They were up against a tough defense and didn't get it done. The third one was to contain and pressure OSU's explosive and talented quarterback. Everybody was getting away with calling him DJ, so I'm going to do that. He had a good enough game for the Beavers to come out on the plus side ledger in this game.
Steve, one thing we didn't talk about is you talked about the receiving core, dropping some passes. We have to mention that Mekhi Shaw did not travel with the Aztecs this week. He was in San Diego due to some sort of injury, so I'm not sure what that's all about. So Breon Penny, Mark Redmond had some big games. Penny, 6 catches, 77 yards. Redmond, 4 for 77. And when Maiden can get the ball to the tight ends, that's gold. But unfortunately, only 4 completions to Redmond and the 2-point try was supposed to go to the other tight end, fall short of the goal line.
Obviously, it wasn't a pass that was deep enough in the end zone, or again, a fast and athletic defender was able to stop that 2-point conversion from being successful. Aztecs had some other receptions from Keenan Christon with 4 for 34. Balin Brooks caught a couple for 34, and Philippe Wesley also had 2. But yeah, it's just one of those situations where they did have opportunities to make plays, and they did not execute to perfection, which is something they needed to do if they were going to beat a team like the Beavers inside of their own home stadium.
Your entire offense cannot be kicking 49, 50, and 52-yard field goals. That's just not going to do it.
So Jack Browning in the field goal department, he had for him what would probably be considered a mediocre game. He had 3 opportunities to make field goals, only converted 1 of them. In the first quarter, the opportunity to keep the game tied up even, missed a 48-yarder. Talk about it possibly being tipped. You're going to have to take a review of that one. He had a 52-yarder in the second quarter that was good, and then missed in the fourth quarter on a 49-yarder. So points that were left on the field, and again, to beat the dead horse even deader than it already is, it's one of those games where you have to have everything go your way. And the defense for the Beavers had a monstrous game, and Andrew Chatfield was the biggest bother, the biggest thorn in the side of the Aztecs offensive line, with the 4 solo tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, the 2 sacks for 15 yards. But again, you give up 6 sacks in a football game, it's going to be a tough uphill climb.
Damian Martinez, their excellent running back, he did rush for over 100 yards, 15 carries, 102 yards. But in the second half especially, he was bottled up. They were not running the ball nearly as well in the second half as they did in the first half. So there was some adjustment there. But their quarterback in the second half made some really nice throws. And, of course, the killer was that 75-yard middle screen pass that turned into a touchdown. That pretty much took all the air out of the sails there of any Aztec hopes for a comeback.
Before that, the Aztecs, since we did sort of bang up on the offensive line a little bit, do want to kind of give them a little bit of credit because they kept pushing the entire game. And at the start of the fourth quarter, the Aztecs trailed, and they had an opportunity to make a game of it. And they grabbed the ball. The quarter had just begun and started off on a nice drive. Keenan Christian ran up the middle. Jalen Maiden completed some short passes. Jalen Armstead got going and carried through the middle for 7. Armstead got the 6 yards to close it out with a touchdown, and the Aztecs were only down by 10 at that point. That's after attempting the 2-point conversion and failing. But still, that late in the game, Aztecs still had an opportunity to make a game of it.
Yeah, it was after that touchdown that Oregon State threw that 75-yard touchdown pass. There was a big miss early in the game in the first quarter. You probably remember this. The Aztecs, Balin Brooks, Maiden threw a pass while Balin Brooks was running right up the middle of the field, and it looked like it could have been for a long gainer. And later the announcers on Fox Sports 1 said they thought it was going to be a touchdown, and he just couldn't bring it in. So that was a missed opportunity. That could have been a huge play at that point in the game because the Aztecs were down 12-0. They ended up kicking a field goal on that drive after Breon Penny caught a 25-yard pass to set up a field goal, but a missed opportunity there for sure.
And in a game like this, you're going to have a number of them. And so I think we've pretty much hit on all the lowlights, the highlights, whatever you want to call them. As far as this game, the Aztecs do lose their second game against the Pac-12 opponent. And fortunately, don't have to worry about that again. And now I can go back to not caring or paying attention to the Pac-12.
Yes, you can. Unless the Aztecs get into some reconstituted Pac-12, Steve. But I do have a feeling that San Diego State will be playing Oregon State a lot more in the coming years based on whatever might happen in the future. But we're not going to talk about that. I do want to talk about...
You know what? Now, since you brought it up, I'm going to say just one more thing about this, the way this is all played out. Why should UCLA and SC and all these other schools, why should they just stop with playing their athletic contests all the way on the other side of the country? Why don't they just pick up the whole university and move it lock, stock, and barrel all over there? I mean, that's pretty much what you're doing. You're taking your primary driver of public interest in your institution, and then you're moving all the way out just for the love of the money. Just pick up the whole thing, get a Rick and Morty portal, and just portal that sucker all the way out there in Chicago and Michigan and be done with it. And then you could take those holes in the communities where those universities are occupying this prime real estate and turn it into something that the community can really all benefit now, not just wealthy coaches, administrators, and the assorted people who profit from all that. And I think
that's all. I think that's all for a special episode of Aztecs All in the near future, right?
Let's talk about. I feel better now.
Let's talk about Friday. The Aztecs have a quick turnaround. They have to play Boise State, the first conference game of the year. Boise State was 0-2 going into today's game against North Dakota, and they creamed North Dakota 42-18. But Boise State not off to a great start. But again, conference season, it's a whole new ball game, and the Aztecs really need to come out prepared to play what always is a tough Boise State team.
You know, on paper, the Fighting Hawks of North Dakota did get pummeled by a final score of 42-18. But I watched portions of that game, and there were a lot of turnovers on the part of the Broncos. The Fighting Hawks had their opportunity. It was, even though on paper, again, it looks like they got whomped, it was a football game all the way into the second stanza, the second half of the game, when North Dakota actually scored 12 points in the third. The Aztecs have their strengths and weaknesses. Boise State has their strengths and weaknesses. We look forward to a good contest.
Indeed. Boise State's always a tough team to play, but they have them here at home this year. They don't have to go up and play on the blue turf. So we look forward to that, and we will be previewing that game for you later in the week. But before we go for this post-game edition of Aztecs All In, Steve, there is an Aztec team worth talking about.
Not that the football team is not.
No,
and that
I didn't imply that.
Of course not. And that sport in which the Aztecs are nationally ranked is men's soccer. They are number 18 in the nation. And that's according to the latest United Soccer Coaches Poll. The Aztecs at last report were 4-0-1, and that's going into a game Monday night against Life Pacific on the SDSU Sports Deck, and they are one of two schools in the nation that have yet to allow a goal this year. So good on them, and we hope it continues.
We do hope it continues. Of course, the soccer team does play in the Pac-12, but I believe only 6 teams are in that division in the Pac-12 that play soccer.
The Aztecs Athletics Conference is the Pac-12 conference. So we will have to ask what impact all this realignment rigmarole has on that element of the athletics program. Until then, Lewis, take us home.
Yes. Yeah, we're that's it for this edition of Aztecs All In. Thank you so much for listening. Please follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also reach us via email at aztecsallin@gmail.com. And you can follow us on the X, formerly known as Twitter, Aztecs_all_in. For Steve Perez, I'm Louis Weiner. Until next time, so long.